houses. Like, seriously. This shit is fucking slow, man. Peace, peace, peace. Peace. Cosmic Allah. Peace. All right. Try to make this a very action-packed class today. I am not very content with the thirst that you all went to ask for details about the assignment that I gave about building per month. I know that what I explained was something that no one has ever said, so I know that it would take some explanation, and no one asked me, so it is what it is, right? So peace, everybody. Today's the knowledge add on a cipher day. So we try to make the class in that theme. That means that a lot of information. Okay, a lot of information. Okay. Where am I up to? I want to read you a selection. Okay, I'm up to number 10. So for those that just came in, I always suggest that people read certain books every year that they find most useful. The ones that I give you, like As a Man Thinketh, are certainly ones to start with. Very short book, but very deep book. So you should read it once every year. And it should be the beginning of your journal excursion. What you're gonna write in your journals and things like that. You know? Okay, can everybody hear me? Good? I see the mind. Okay, everything looks good. Okay, it's cosmic Allah peace, you know. If we were in the classroom, you know, ask a question. What do you want to know? What have you been researching? So you have either to ask me a question or I will ask you a question. So what do you expect out of this class session? Out of me? Remind me. I don't know if you've ever emailed me. Just remember we have... Okay, so anybody wants to build beyond, when we build beyond the classroom, you were emailing me at Sunez97@gmail for deeper questions, inquiries, curriculum, references, books and materials, etc. Should be going here to read all the columns that I've been writing for these classes as we've been going on live. The last couple of weeks have been very philosophical and stuff. That's because I feel, when I feel in the classroom, and this counts as digital, when if I feel I've gone too far, I kind of slow down, and instead of forcing you to engage, I slow down. It's the only mechanism that I know. Okay, I'm just sharing the link on different social media. All right. When I have students read As a Man Thinketh, right? I'm going to start adding more of my traditional builds, segments, class segments. And they don't necessarily have to be books that I expect you to go read immediately. That's not the point. But what I want to do is when I started this classroom class, last week Day's son was very comical in the classroom, and me and him are yang and yin. You know what I mean? He is the 5%, the true and living God that I've known the longest since I got knowledge of self. He's the one that brought me to the school, to the teachers that I would learn from. So he's my day one in this. His style is abrasive. It is abrupt. It is challenging. And it seems completely different from my own, but yet it's nearly the same. Because the last one, the challenging one, right? So I see people are online and stuff. If you were in the classroom, let me know. Let me know. There are no students in the physical classroom. Okay, there are no students in the physical classroom. So, and that's been the case for a while, because I think because of COVID and everything like that, a lot of students have contacted me. I am not imploring anyone to come here. And hell yeah, if you feel sick, you can stay your ass home. But I have to fix that flag, right? It's sagging. No. Oh, that's good. Come on. No. Yeah, so I'm going to do some of these segments because people could always go back and read them. They're not necessarily to read them. But the first book that I have everybody read is What I Was Taught Was Perfect for the Student to Read. This is something that Savior Knowledge taught me. And he just said, give it to all your students. Give it in the beginning. I had to be taught the pedagogy, and just like I talked about my mentor in college and life, Dr. David Traverso Galarza, Peace God. Then one of my major teachers in pedagogy continued in the next level of pedagogy, or I don't want to say next level, but another step. Different. They're not really levels to me. They're really steps, different steps in different paths, different styles. And he always felt and how to have a more book-centered approach, and how to do that. And the major book was As a Man Thinketh by James Allen. And if you don't have that book and don't know how to research, you should be able to find a copy online. But of course, if you email me, I absolutely will give it to you in EPUB format, okay, which is the best format in my opinion to do your research with. So the reason I'm mentioning that, though, is As a Man Thinketh has 7 chapters. They are about the mind. They're about the strength of the mind, the power of the mind. And I wanted to read you what really is the foundation of the Dhammapada by James Allen. Okay. P793. Again, any questions or anything, please throw them in. Okay. Any builds on today's mathematics for those students that are ready and are willing and able? Any student or any viewer that is watching and doesn't really know, wants more immediate answers immediately, just ask. Please ask. Okay, you tune into the Peace course taught at Allah School in Mecca, political education and civilization enrichment. Political education, how to deal with the outside world, how we struggle in this outside world, and work to master it. How do we share? How do we receive? How do we do things? And then the civilization enrichment and civilization enrichment. The science of everything in life, right? The science of everything in life, okay? Give me one moment. Just want to check the cipher here. Okay. We are here. We're back. I just wanted to check out. I thought somebody was in the back there, but nobody was. Okay, but now there's Gregory. Peace. All right. Yeah. So what I was talking about was the pedagogy that I learned, and the pedagogy was predicated on using particular books, and that major particular book was As a Man Thinketh. But As a Man Thinketh wasn't an wholly original work. It just was really a great adaptation and a way to explain it, though, for the modern world, really the Western world, in the best way possible. And it's a good book to give to people. But the root of that, though, the root of the Dhammapada, the root of the As a Man Thinketh, is in the Dhammapada. And I want to focus on that as like that book to look into, and read a passage. Peace to the God. And read a passage from that, just because I love it and I want to get back into talking about particular books, especially in the beginning of the class when people aren't there, and I could talk about things I love, that'll be useful, right? Even though, because at the end of the class, when the class is ending and over, y'all be getting me to talk about records and stuff. So, but the Dhammapada is filled with aphorisms, okay? Aphorisms are sayings of understanding written beautifully. This is how I define it. Let me see how it's technically defined. If I remember, that is the definition. It's the way I describe it, though, but it's not always sometimes the way you describe something isn't always the definition. A P-H-O Okay, a pithy observation that contains a general truth, a concise statement of scientific principle, typically by an ancient classical author. Boy, talk about Google fail. That's a horrible definition of that, because what the definition fails to make note of. Here we go. Merriam-Webster has a third definition: an ingeniously terse style of expression. You know, terse means spare, like not very much, quickly. That's what the aphorism becomes. But the aphorism is made abrupt. See, when you talk about the beauty of language, the aphorism becomes the aphorism. In other words, concentrated language, right? Which is my favorite way of writing. If any of you ever read my work, if anybody's ever bought my books, whether I talk about music or I talk about anything, I have a love for concentrated language, something that looks beautiful and makes you go back. To me, to make it abrupt, to make it terse, to make it concentrated, less words, it has to have more beauty to it. It has to have more, the words have to mean more, so they have to be more layered. And therein lies the aphorism becoming a beautiful statement. And this is what the Dhammapada is. Well, why do that? Is that just a waste of time? Are these just, it's the same reason we listen to music and remember things more, or insights hit us more with music, or certain understanding may not be spoken of in great detail in song, in verse, right? Particularly hip hop verse, right? Well, most of us are, a lot of us are sparked further or sparked initially toward the knowledge of self. The ability to concentrate the language in that way beautifies it. The reason it's beautified is because it is easier to remember. And so it is easier to live a daily life. I mean, that's why you memorize 120 lessons and get understanding. And lots of 120 lessons is written aphoristically. Who is the original man? The original man is the Asiatic black man, the maker, the owner, the cream of the planet Earth, father of civilization, and God of the universe. No one is ever going to tell me they could give me all these builds about, I keep saying it, you give me all these fancy builds about the cream and da-da-da, and all you did was make more poetic language to support and try to, make a technical science out of something that was deliberately written to be metaphorical, to be taken as metaphor, and for the reader to see the beauty in that. So that's what an aphorism is. And for the ancient, Dhammapada, Dhamma, righteous, Pada, path. The righteous path said it's to be the sayings of Buddha. 26 aphorisms. So it's actually shorter than 120 lessons. This is something that they memorize, just like we memorize 120 lessons, because these are important vignettes of history and insights and truths that we need to not only take in, but one of the other jewels of the aphorism is not just to remember something immediately, but to also stay with an idea, right? And so that idea interacts with the world around you and interacts with you daily. Why is that? Because some things need to be taught. They need to be taught slowly. You need to see them in real life. You need to have them interact. In these cases, they were all seen as true, the aphorism. So when you memorize the aphorism, it is something that you see, but you don't see it yet. You're only accepting it as true. So it protects the person from even living out something that they think should be true, right? Even though they don't really know yet. But because it is so beautifully written, they usually don't catch the meaning of the beauty, okay? They may know it's beautiful, but they don't catch the meanings behind the beautification until they start to use it, okay? And this lies the power of the aphorism. It's one of the most beautiful things you can do. So I'll read you the first aphorism and I like the Thomas Byrom translation. And the first one is called Choices. And the title of that, in all the translations I've read into English, it is usually always the same, name for that. But it goes like this. We are what we think. All that we are arises with our thoughts. With our thoughts, we make the world. Speak or act with an impure mind, and trouble will follow you as the wheel follows the ox that draws the cart. We are what we think. All that we are arises with our thoughts. With our thoughts, we make the world. Speak or act with a pure mind, and happiness will follow you as your shadow, unshakable. Look how he abused me and hurt me, how he threw me down and robbed me. Live with such thoughts, and you will live in hate. Look how he abused me and hurt me, how he threw me down and robbed me. Abandon such thoughts and live in love. In this world, hate never yet dispelled hate. Only love dispels hate. This is the law, ancient and inexhaustible. You too shall pass away. Knowing this, how can you quarrel? Hold on. How can you quarrel? How easily the wind overturns a frail tree. Seek happiness in the senses, indulge in food and sleep, and you too will be uprooted. The wind cannot overturn a mountain. Temptation cannot touch the man who is awake, strong and humble, who masters himself and minds the Dharma. If a man's thoughts are muddy, if he is reckless and full of deceit, how can he wear the yellow robe? Whoever is master of his own nature, bright, clear, and true, he may indeed wear the yellow robe. Mistaking the false for the true and the true for the false, you overlook the heart and fill yourself with desire. See the false is false, the true is true. Look into your heart. Follow your nature. An unreflecting mind is a poor roof. Passion like the rain floods the house. But if the roof is strong, there is shelter. Whoever follows impure thoughts suffers in this world and the next. In both worlds, he suffers, and how greatly when he sees the wrong he has done. But whoever follows the Dharma is joyful here and joyful there. In both worlds, he rejoices, and how greatly when he sees the good he has done. For great is the harvest in this world, and greater still in the next. However many holy words you read, however many you speak, what good will they do you if you do not act upon them? Are you a shepherd who counts another man's sheep, never sharing the way? Read as few words as you like and speak fewer, but act upon the Dharma. Give up the old ways, passion, enmity, folly. Know the truth and find peace. Share the way. Okay, so that was that entire first aphorism, right? Indeed, wise you, Eightfold Path and the Four Noble Truths. These are certainly the leading up to, the Dhammapada is definitely a general. So it doesn't really go into the particular Eightfold Path or Four Noble Truths. They only mentioned in passing. But let's look at some things that are very similar to 120 lessons as cues. Peace.
Peace, bro.
What's the science guy?
I'm just surprised that y'all got air conditioning in here. Y'all updated what's going on.
That's right. No doubt, God. In fact, God, I got I'm online now, so I'm teaching the class digitally.
I've been watching you every
week. No doubt, God. That's peace, God. That's peace. You know what I mean? And I'm going through the first aphorism in the Dhammapada, the first sutra, what they would call a sutra, right? It is an aphorism, but it's called a sutra. And I read it because I wanted to kind of do what I used to do. When I started teaching, I used to always go through certain books and stuff, and it was a thing I did differently. A lot of people don't know that when this class started, though, a lot of the elders were not very, let's just say that they weren't really so open at me teaching. You know what I mean? I was considered too young, too light, too spicky. You know what I mean? Whatever it was, you know. But
similar experiences. So.
Right, yeah. As all though, you know what I'm saying? The truth is, when we get knowledge of self, we still have to get rid of a lot of the old ways. When we get knowledge, that's why we don't have knowledge of self. And people have knowledge of self. They may have the knowledge of a certain information. See, the black man is God. There is no mystery God. These are fun facts. You know what I'm saying? We're supposed to work to a future where this is not very impressive. You know what I'm saying? And what you learn, though, having knowledge a long time, is that people could have this, but you know, it's like anybody having a fact. Like, yeah, you know, 1 + 1 is 2, right? I'm sure that most of the fights you've ever been in, people have known 1 + 1 = 2. You know what I'm saying? Knowledge doesn't always make a friend. Yeah, not all of them though. Yeah. You know, from yeah. I lived in P.E.A.C.E too, right? No, I'm just kidding. Throw a P.E.A.C.E dog, right? But the thing about it though is that we have to look at that knowledge does not make a family though. The way you live that knowledge makes a family. You know what I mean? And that's why, like, the reason that these first books, like As a Man Thinketh and its root Dhammapada, are so important, the way I was taught by my elders, specifically Savior knowledge, is because to make this knowledge of self something that is more familial, right? To make it more familial is to also learn to make it more, you know, to realize that it will be the familiar, the information, that it's not founded just on the information, but the way that people use the information, you know. But when you look at ancient aphoristic literature, especially from the East, you get clues on the types of style of writing that are in 120, because 120 seems repetitious and stuff. But I read the first sutra. And there's a lot of repetition in it. So, like, for example, right? It says, we are what we think, all that we are arises with our thoughts. And then it says some other stuff, right? And it says the famous metaphor, right? And I'm pretty sure this is what As a Man Thinketh quotes. Speak or act with an impure mind, and trouble will follow you as the wheel follows the ox that draws the cart. You know what I mean? So your mind and your reality is mind, ox, your reality, cart. You know what I mean? Ox and cart, mind and your reality. So it goes into metaphor, but then it goes back and repeats. We are what we think. All that we are arises with our thoughts. With our thoughts, we make the world. What's interesting is that it repeats the same thing now, because with our thoughts, we make the world. This is the same repetition that is also in Tahuti's universal law. All is mind, and the mind is the all. The universe is made by thought and can only be affected by thought. It's all the same. So we have people repeating things. So the journey of having knowledge of self is also the ability to repeat an obvious fact again and again. It sounds like, that sounds really like depressing, isn't it? Like, we have to keep repeating the same thing. But yeah, absolutely. And you see how it becomes different for different people, right? But notice that in 120 they use a lot of repetition, and there is more repetition per paragraph in the Dhammapada than there is in 120. But that repetitive nature is a lot in Message to the Black Man and in the writings of Elijah Muhammad. But that doesn't necessarily count, because those aren't really writings of beauty. They're really just annotated speeches. In the Bible, how they repeat things. But in the Bible certainly would be an example, though. So this is always a cue and, a technique, to take note of. Let me see if there's any questions, because I got the thing on, right? Peace, self-magnetic. Peace to God.
I know you're gonna hit me with that. That sounds.
Yeah.
Capitalistic oppression right here.
Yeah. The God took me off my square with that noise. Let's see if I can get back. Right? But here's the thing, right? The reason that these are sutras, though, the reason sutras are written this way is that not so you have more difficulty repeating it again and again because it's so repetitive, but that they expect also that not everyone memorizes the whole thing. Sometimes people get stuck with one saying. So you might just stick with the first line. We are what we think. Realize that if a man remembers just that and forgets the whole damn book, his whole life is like changed. You know what I'm saying? So every time he's thinking some foul shit and he goes, we are what we think. He's like, holy shit, I am thinking some foul ass. You know what I mean? Now, right now he's gonna change. So
who taught you to think that way?
Right. It gives yeah.
Who taught you?
It gives you the singular jewels as well. You know what I mean? The thing about the Dhammapada too is that it also gives you emotional cues, which is something that's found in a lot of what people surprise that they think of Buddhism as some robotic thing, that no emotion, we will have no emotion, because it goes, get rid of suffering, no emotion. But the deeper you read into Buddhist texts, though, it's because they're funneling so much emotion. So it's really about not suffering, about letting things go. But there's also lots of work on equanimity, which is having compassion for all things without being attached to them, because you could be more effective in compassion. So technically, emotion is not really being thrown out, though. It's just really being targeted, which is extremely difficult. And so what happens is that in most people's studies, they end up, one of the most easier ways to do it is just to be robotic. You know what I mean? It's very difficult.
Compassion. That's a bar right there.
I don't, yeah. Right? So here's the emotional aspect, right? They give you, if you notice, it says, look how he abused me and hurt me, how he threw me down and robbed me. Live with such thoughts and live in hate. But then it repeats it again. So it's almost like a sermon. It comes off like a sermon. Look how he abused me and hurt me, how he threw me down and robbed me. Abandon such thoughts and live in love. Now it gives you the emotional. Okay? Live in love. It tells you what to do. So it tells you what not to do, what you were doing. But then it repeats it and says, here's how you should do. You're living in hate, live in love. In this world, hate never dispelled hate. Only love dispels hate, right? So again, this is also giving you, even though it's not directly Taoist, it's giving you a yang-yin approach, though. You cannot, the fight fire with fire was never a thing, right? Only love dispels hate, right? Which really sounds very cliche. This might not be something that hinges to people today's world. You know what I mean? This is the law, ancient and inexhaustible, right? But then look, there are some parts here in all of the ancient texts, and why they're so crucial when I teach students and I make them read it if I take them to the next level and teach them martial arts, is because if you don't master your senses, then you could fall victim to just the physical senses. You know what I mean? It could be either way. Like, let's say if I train someone and we get the idea that this is totally bitch made, so that everything hurts, everything is, you're feeling everything. But it could work the other way around too, that they're so intense that they're not really gauging their body, so they're not really learning well, and they're too intense. They go for more pain, they go for intensity, and they burn themselves out. That's also a negative as well. If you notice in a lot of the Eastern teachings, they talk about senses and how the senses can corrupt because they could be overwhelmed. You know what I mean? That's why last week's class, I think it was, I wrote about this. No, it was the week before. I wrote about it in the column in the 5%media.com about how to deal with the senses. It's not that we shouldn't deal with intense senses. Like, God, you make music, right? It doesn't mean that but there are times where you can't make music. You want to make music, but you can't because it's not going to allow you to. In other words, you've heard too much music. you've overindulged, and it's not, the palate is off. You know what I mean? So now you have to do different things. So it's that balance of switching between palates, and the concept of never going over yang, never overflowing the cup is the point. They want you to fill the cup, but not to overflow it. So know when you've gone too far. Always reserve something. This is in the Tao Te Ching. This is in the Dhammapada. This is in all the teachings, right? And I'll read this part again because it has language that you may not know. If a man's thoughts are muddy, if he's reckless and full of deceit, how can he wear the yellow robe? Yellow robe is a phrase used in all the ancient Chinese texts. Anything with yellow, especially the robe, has to do with understanding. So the yellow robe is understanding.
Wow.
That's what that means. Yeah, that's what that means. And the reference for that is Thomas Cleary's references in the first time I learned that was in the I Ching. So the yellow robe means understanding. So you see how the insight is crazy.
Wow.
You know? So when they say he's the wearer of the yellow robe, you know, some ill shit. That's a bar too, man.
Yeah.
Right, you know? Right? And mistaking the false for the true and the true for the false, you overlook the heart and fill yourself with desire, right? Okay, look at your, okay, so, and then it gives you, it beautifies the insights as well. So now it's for certain people may only be able to remember something that sounds good. You know what I mean? You know, like Boricuas, right? The refrane, you know what I mean? Like we always have those, right? How many does your old earth have? You know what I mean? Like my old earth had 1 million. They go, no, go like, you know, you know, every time we see somebody that's on the same shit, that always comes up, you know what I mean? But a whole bunch of other things, right? So it goes, an unreflecting mind is a poor roof. Passion like the rain floods the house. But if the roof is strong, there is shelter. These things stay in your head. An unreflecting mind is a poor roof. So now this concept of being able to look at what you've done. This is why, like a lot of the Eastern teachings, they favor mathematics, though, because, right? Well, how do you first to use mathematics? You got to go back. And today's mathematics is knowledge add on a cipher. One of the ways to add on a cipher is to look back at all that you've done and see what is missing. So the first knowledge to add on a cipher is always to see and to recoup of what you've done. That's why I have that difficult assignment that you can only really do on your own, of looking at the month as 3 parts. Those first initial days where you define what these mathematics are, and then you define what type of information, what type of new things must you add on to each of those degrees. What type of knowledge do I add on to my culture, to the power that I have, to the quality? So now in the single digit days, I'm asking you to define them personally as, what do you, God, would say is your essential knowledge right now that you want to work on? What is the essential wisdom, the ways and means that you're doing? You know, all these things. When you get to those teens, then you're going, well, what can I add to these different things? And when you get to the wisdom days, then how am I going to use it all? If you do stuff like that, you'll start get to a place where you start to plot everything you're doing, though, and see and understand yourself better, you know? But reflection is always key, right? Let me see. And again, there's more repetition, right? And this is something in the Eastern teachings that go against how we build. They go, read as few words as you like. Obviously, I want everybody to read 1 million books, and that sounds like it goes against the Eastern teachings, especially in China, the Chinese teachings, Japanese, they're very against, it'll read like this in translation, which a lot of times to me is bad translation, or westernized translation, like the incorrect. But they favor the man with knowledge is like a corrupt man. The man that has knowledge is prone to cleverness. And like in the Tao Te Ching, though, it says keep the people, like basically saying like keep the people stupid and shit. You know what I mean? That's not really what they mean, though. Like keep them simple, keep them this. Is that when people learn things just for the sake of getting ahead, this is where cleverness comes about. So it's basically saying like, care more about what you do with what you read as opposed to how much you read. You know what I mean? And that's something that is going to be repeated in a lot of these ancient texts. You know what I mean? Right. The LT stage of the yellow brick road to the whiz. Yeah, I don't know if that was the if they was dealing with understanding of that the gold. Yeah, you know, like once you said gold, it changes the understanding because it's about monetary gains and stuff. So it might not be the same. You know what I mean? Plus, that's a westernized concept. So but hell, if you want to go with that, right? Peace, calm Islami, serious mathematics, peace. Right. If any of you have any builds or any questions, ask away. You too, God.
Was Buddha a Hindu?
They were all Hindu, really, because he was breaking away from Hinduism. So he saw that Hinduism was already corrupt and had too much idol worship. And what's interesting is that the idol worship was really about focusing on concepts. So they would make a statue to focus on concepts. But clearly that went away because, like, if a man, like he can't get away from the power women is all in his mind, then he has these gorgeous female statue and he's trying to concentrate. So a lot of times, a lot of Hinduism developed where the vices became expressed in the statues so you could focus and let them go. But you know what happens, though. Then it becomes paintings, then it becomes worship, then it becomes, that's what I want. So now what you're trying to get away from is actually what now you are venerating. You know what I mean? So he went away from that, though. And that's why he lived such a life of deliberate poverty. You know what I mean? I mean, they even argue about, whether they should step on grass, it was hurting the grass. Right? I mean, that's crazy, right? So
it's crazy. I actually thought of that too as a child. I remember.
Yeah, because there's levels of destruction in everything that we do. You know what I mean? Because there's levels of change in everything. Because change is always happening, we can always define that as destruction because the previous state is no longer as it was. Every time I breathe, I change the atmosphere. I'm changing the oxygen into carbon dioxide. So if we define it as from the state of oxygen, that would be a destructive state. If we define it from the state of carbon dioxide, then all the plants are gone finally. Because we're really not helping the earth at all. So right. Kemi Iman, right? I think I don't know if it's Iman or Iman because you capitalize the M, but peace. Yes, and the empty ritualism. Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah, that's definitely what I mean. Right? The empty. I wouldn't say always empty. I think for some, you know what I'm saying, because you have to, that definitely becomes something. So certainly yes. Both. Well, okay. Then I can't get it wrong unless I come up with a third way to say your name. All right, I see Supreme Scientist. All right, peace. The what else did I have here? Yeah, it's all really peace though, but sometimes when I write my column, I kind of MF Doom it. I don't know what to call it. So it'll be just named after something. I gotta put a picture with it. So I just, use something I mentioned. Yeah, so so if you know what I mean, but like MF Doom will just name it after like a line in the song. So like the last column I wrote Lost in the Filing, and I just put the picture of destruction of Black civilization. A lot of people, when I posted it, posted in social media, like, oh, great book. The article, the piece was not about the book at all. Like it mentioned the book, but it wasn't about it though. So
one of my favorite books.
Yeah, but Yeah, y'all snitched on yourselves though, saying it was a great book. I didn't. It wasn't an article about the book. You know what I mean? Although it did reference the book. You know what I mean? Yeah, when I was writing the last one, I was really thinking about like this idea. We get lost in one way or the other. You know what I'm saying? And we get lost in that too because our own degrees do that. Who's the original man? Then right after, who's the colored man? So even we tend to look at things always black and white, one way or the other. You know what I mean? And God, you know, you see elders. You know, I'm gonna say right now, older people. I'm gonna say elders. You know? I like to use elders when I'm referencing insight from aged men. But a lot of older people with the knowledge, they'll yell out though, there's only God and devil, you know what I mean? And that's not true. It's not real life. You know what I mean? The truth is that we're here shepherding a whole bunch of people. They're not all devils, right? We're here offering guidance. We're here building with people, though. They're not all devils. You know what I'm saying? So if they don't deal with the knowledge, they're devil. Come on, yeah, humanity has a little bit more diversity than that, right? Yeah, but so when we start to look at the babies, they got to pick a side. Supreme scientists, as soon as they go Google Gaga, like what was it? What's the movie? I'm forgetting my.
Well, any neutrals always get slaughtered, so you gotta pick a side.
Yeah.
When the opposite side stop fighting, they're gonna come after the neutral.
Yeah. So like as soon as the baby crawls, we just choose the sword. You know what I mean? You will join me. You know what I mean? Like you know, Shogun's assassins. Mm-hmm. It doesn't really work that way. You know, right? Yeah, 783. Yeah, I was thinking about it. I was like, wait a minute, because now I don't think Shogun's assassin. So I just think Jizza when I think of that. I just think Jizza. But yeah, it doesn't work one way or the other though. So when I wrote that, that's why I had written the DJ, the dancer, maker, the owner, the Afro, the indigenous, the Geno, the Pheno, the writer, or the fighter. The answer is not always one or the other. You know what I'm saying? The answer is deeper, you know? Don't let people fool you into that, you know? But definitely, you know, check the columns that I write, though, because they're usually something that is catapulted from the class, but it isn't just repetitive of the material in the classroom. So it'll offer something else. You know what I mean? All right, peace, Rim. All right. Okay, give me a moment because I just spoke about the Dhammapada and stuff, so I want to write that down in the notes.
Happy to be back. It's been a minute.
Indeed, yes.
I'm so happy about this air conditioning situation.
Man, I have spent many summers though just cooking here, you know, like
hey, dude, bro.
Yeah.
Strong man.
Let me tell you why I don't complain in the summer though when it was disgusting here. Because it's worse in the winter when it's freezing. You know what I mean? And I never, in every class that I've taught, I've never worn my jacket in the classroom. You know, when it's cold because I don't want to look like I'm about to leave. You know?
Oh wow.
I want to make it look like, you know, you could come in and you can stay, you know? Like even though I was freezing my ass off, I used to have my pinkies all frozen and shit. You know? But anybody has a build, throw it on there. If anybody has a question that they think will be suitable for themselves or anyone else, throw it up there. Okay. One thing about the digital, Students, where are you? You become mystery gods in my email box. Because they ask me questions, and then when I give the assignments, though, they turn into mystery gods. You know what I mean? You have to find some way to show and prove that you were continuously building, you know? If not, then how would I know? Right? How would I know? Let's see. Okay, so okay. All right, so in conclusion, though, just to leave that Dhammapada there, if anybody wants that book digitally, just email me. And just remember that a lot of the 120 lessons is not completely made up. You know what I'm saying? Like it was made up out of the blue and stuff. It's really like it's really like the development of many years of literature of that kind. But to have so much detail, you don't find literature with that much detail, though. So the technical detail, there's a lot of technical information in it. So people don't notice it as like aphoristic or literature that would be broken up into sutras. We call them degrees and stuff, but it'd be kind of similar, But the intriguing thing is all of that information, that loads of information. And it's always intriguing, like how much 120 has information that is not taught at all. Just think about that. Like, this is foundational material. I'm not just talking about the black man is God, but like the details of the devil, certain historical notes, things like that. And,
The etymology, devil, adversary.
Right. Oh, that's peace. Safe travels, Rim. Safe travels. 21, Nikemi. 21. Okay? I haven't counted in a while. I just remember it's 21. Now that you know that, though, what would you do with that? 21. Is it to 21 or 20? Oh, my goodness. Am I going to have to look down and count? No, yeah, I think you're right. 22. I got to get that old plus lesson of Universal Sham God. Haven't read that in a while. All right, that's peace. That's peace, Rim. All right. Rim is running away from the fade. That's what you're doing. I see what you're doing. He's going to go where no man knows him, though, until his hair grows back. Yeah. Let me see. Yeah, I need to keep it real. I don't No, is that the hot show in town, Kamislami? Wesley Muhammad debating the rabbi. Is that the hot show in town? I'm the other draw. I'm the lesser draw. So apparently they're debating a rabbi.
I would love to see that, though.
They all deal with mysteries, so what the hell?
I would love to see that.
7 points on the 7, 2 points on the moon, 8 points on the sun, 5 points on the star. Okay, you're right. What always becomes the argument is the 7 points on the 7, I think, if I remember correctly. But yeah, what 7, 9, and 8 is 17. Wait, did I miss something here? 7, 8, 2, 10, 17, 17, 5. Yeah, 17, 5 is 22. Yeah, two religious people. So they're not gonna find God anyway. You know what I mean? No, LT. No, it sounds right. I was even always told about the relativity of 22 points being a victory. Yeah, why do I not remember stuff like that? Because that's a build that fits. 22 points on the flag, synonymous with victory, though. I don't like New York Times builds. I don't favor builds that fit. Like, you know, it sounds just like those people that they walk outside and there's a 7 there and it goes, oh, that's got to be the place. All the signs are in place for me to do. That if you start to see the world mathematically, then you're not. When you start to see the world mathematically, right? You're not seeing numbers on doors anymore. Okay, you're seeing people's natures and you're seeing principles interlocking and combining. You're not looking at, oh no, I'm going into a house that says 666 on it. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, like so. I never was one for builds like that. I don't know.
Numerology.
I don't know. I don't think if Shamgod, when he made the flag, he may have noted a particular way, but he wasn't as specific because his designs weren't as, like the way we have it now. It goes through subtle mutations, or variations. Let me not say mutations, you know? It's like we're trapped in an elevator here. Like, yeah. I don't know who it is who's playing, but yeah. My favorite artist that is everybody's elevator music is George Benson. I don't know. I love George Benson. Yeah. Yes. You mentioned this though, and the God Malachi has an article about the history of the universal flag. I haven't read it yet though. Was that inspired because of what he wrote? I'm looking through quickly if he had mentioned something about the points and stuff. I don't see it in the article. All right, let me read these comments here. 7 sides, not the points. Yeah. Look, I'm just saying in my experience, and take it as completely anecdotal as you want. The people that argue about things like this though have very little builds in like actual living and shit. The 7, when using the same qualification as the other points counted on the flag, would mean that 7 has 6 points. Do I have to find a flag here? Besides, because I can't look at mine because I don't want to take it off. Let me look at the flag. Wait, let me just look at the flag in the article. Shit. Okay, so you say as would mean that the 7 has 6 points. Okay, I'll deal with this briefly.
No one gets the interior angle.
No, yeah, I mean, points is very easy to define the way you're drawing it. So then you said that the qualifications on the other ones. Well, not on the moon, though, right? That would be 2. 1, 2. Well, yeah. Well, if we did that, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. If we did, that means if we counted. Well, he's saying that if we counted every single intersection, every point that happens, not just the outer points, but let's say like in the 5-point star, not just the outer points, but where it comes in the angle, then we would add like what we would be adding like what 1, 2, 3, be like 10 for the 5. The star would have 10. Yeah. So yeah, Well, what we could do is this, right? LT, look in that article though. Is the correct flag that you bear witness to there? I just want to know. You know, because we're broaching, breaching, impacting, about to capsize into territory where I don't really give a fuck. You know what I mean? Like, seriously, we're reaching, yeah, because the last person, what's interesting is the last person to make a big deal about the flag and start causing trouble, because the flag that we ended up making and felt comfortable with wasn't the first one that was made, was Wakil, so yeah, literally agent Allah, like yeah, Jason hit me in the head with that one, agent Allah, that's crazy, right? That's crazy, like that is nuts right there, like jeez, you can't have a worse etymology like that. Like if you, right? Like unless your name, etymology of your name is like asshole. Like
I guess agent of God. Maybe?
Yeah, that's probably what it was though. But no, not working with us though. What we dealing with, yeah, fail. But seriously, when you build with the universal flag, what is the point of the build? Right? Yeah, George Benson is dope. You know what I mean? Since we're on this, right? Are any of you who, Akemi LT Station, have you knowledge 120? I don't think you have LT Station for what I remember. I may be remembering incorrectly. If you knowledge 120, are you wearing a flag, right? Because if you're wearing a flag, trust me, no 85er that I have ever encountered though has ever asked me, does that 7 have 8 points on it? What's up with that? Like they don't do that shit. You know what I mean? They're gonna ask you, what does that mean? Like what does that mean? You know what I mean? You tell them, this represents, this represents your demise and your destruction. I don't know. What do you want to say? But you got to have something to say. Yeah, it's a great word, Supreme Scientist, vexillology, because it also is very vexing, right? This study can be very vexing, But no, seriously, it's important. It's important to get all these jewels and to analyze like all of the aspects of the flag. But to me, the major details of the flag are really the family represented. Represented what is shared out to the world, the reality of God. The 7 represents the reality of the Black family represented outward, God everywhere. That's why it's in the front. That's what everyone will see. The living mathematics, okay? The sun represents you, God. The moon represents that Black woman. The star represents the child. The 7 represents the reality of you. The black and the gold represent the what? The black and brown shades, the complete original family. So these are the things that you want to say to people. Say there's 22 points, and because look, in my learning, there are a lot of things to know in this nation, in getting the knowledge, but there are certain types of information that are really used as trivia to be an asshole, So learning this though, seriously, learning this though, and making sure that it's 22 points, or why you would say it's 22 points, or argue. I'm telling you right now, it is not, let's say for me, Peace course material. This is just in case someone wants to be an asshole and he wants to give me extra questions to show that he knows more shit than I do, and he has been a fossil being useless the entire time. Then this is the type of questions that they ask. So know the type of learning that we're going into, you know, and the type of questions you're getting into. Because somebody asks you, like, we get spoiled. You go to a parliament, you find God out there. There's very few people with this knowledge of self. There's even less, though, that actually live it out and say, I'm going to be the God everywhere I am. Not that you're yelling it out, but that you're answering life situations and answering to all life situations as if the reality is true. There is no mystery God. It really is me. I am responsible for all things. And the more I am responsible for and activate, the more I am being the true and living God, right? Then when this happens and when you are behaving in such a manner as that, right? And you meet someone that has this knowledge or says that they have the same knowledge, then now you have to see, like, are we of the same knowledge? Then you can get into stupid ass questions like that on the extreme, right? And no, this is not to take offense, Akemi, or these are all good questions. I'm just telling you the context of their abilities, right? And just keep it real, right? Because the person using it will be used as a stupid ass question. In this classroom, it is not a stupid ass question. Outside, when you meet somebody, where you will hear this will be a stupid ass question to you. So if somebody had asked you this outside, they were asking you a stupid ass question, because it was what I was saying before about a family versus people that just have information of an advanced nature. You know what I mean? And so now I find somebody that is dealing with this knowledge, and that's what I want to ask them. This is the shit that I'm going to ask him. I'm going to ask him about the fucking points on a fucking flag, right? This is what I'm going to ask him, right? I'm not going to ask him like, yo, what was your journey though? Like, what are the insights, you know? Oh, word, you from, like, we meet the guys like, yo, you're from Canada? You're from out there? Oh, you're from P.E.A.C.E? Like, I haven't been there in a while. Like, how is it out there? You know what I'm saying? Like, how's it been the last couple of years? Because these years, right, a lot of things change. Like, everything's changed in just 1 year. So are we asking questions to try to find out who our family is, or are we answering questions to see who will be higher on the totem pole of those with the knowledge of self that I meet? You know what I mean? And that's the problem. We're not really meeting people to be familial. We're meeting people to see, like, what level this nigga at? You know what I mean? Oh, that's peace, Supreme Scientist. Self-magnetic, 22 points. 22 alphabet victory. Your wise words and wise actions shall prove the culture of Islam. Thus, more you teach, the more you teach, more they know. The more you teach, the more they more awareness. Thus, when asked, what's that? Okay. Really quick, let me see something. Because I forget the argument here. 1, 2. If we have a strict standard on the points, though, you got 8. The sun is 8. The moon is always 2. The star will be 5, so that's 15, right? So we're either dealing with 6 or 7. People are counting 7 though because they want to make it cute, but then it changes the mathematical, you know, the criteria. You cannot have a criteria and use that insight point where the 7 goes in, right? If you didn't do that with the star, right? Or the sun, right? So you would have to count just the outer points, right? And in this case, though, the sun would, the 7 would definitely have, like, you know. But what if my flag was whack and I had, like, just wrote it drew it one dimensionally, right? Then the 7 would be what, 2 points, right? my whack flag, right? Or I just wrote, right? You know, so the thing is this, right? The arbitrary nature of numbers sometimes, right? 21 points, 22 points. So what are you seeing in that, and why? You know, I think sometimes we deal with mathematics with looking for codes and not really looking for understanding, you know? No, I get that, Supreme Scientist. Definitely, like, I'm being a pain in the ass on purpose, though. And, you know, like, you know, the thing is, like, because in many respects, there's a better, to me, there's a way to inspect people in different situations and stuff. You know what I mean? There's a way to be congenial, to be peaceful, and to inspect, and then really go hard when you just have a sense that they're not really right and exact. You know what I mean? And that's it. You know what I'm saying? Because, right? Yeah. Okay, man. I was gonna answer the question. I was just being asked, though. You know what I mean? I had to go through the flags, right? Following through, can I find the value more so than trying to make? Right. You know, but if we have a consistent way of judging the points, it's 21. Okay, if it's just the outers. Okay, because if we say 7 points for the 7, the way it's drawn, then what happens is that we're gonna have to do that for the sun, and we're gonna have to do that for the certainly the star, and you know, then it goes awry, and it's really a waste of time. See, the thing is, here's the thing, Joseph, right? You said the 7 has 6, equality. God shows his balance in all things. We are gods in the mind with physical bodies. This is a point of mine. The 7, by the criteria of outer points, is 6, right? And now you gave a build to go with it. Does that, the fact that you can attach a build to the 7 having 6 points, does that make it now useful? You have this is what I'm saying. This is the danger of mathematics. You have fit an understanding into a basic generic fact. That's not, I'm telling you right now, that is not building. And you go a lot of places, though, a lot of elders, a lot of older people that are older, they will consider that building. In this classroom, it is not building at all, right? You'd have to tell me the etymology of the number 7, the way it was shaped from the Arabic and the reasoning why it was from that Arabic, and tell me the whole history of how that 7 shapes, and then go into Universal Shame God and why he decided to make it a block letter in there, and go into his exact reasoning, which most people don't even have, right? The exact reason why he wrote it like that, why he drew it like that, I should say, not wrote it, why he drew it that way, which is just a case of aesthetic. It has nothing to do with anything else. But be very careful you're not fitting builds, because that way of building is very dangerous, because the way you build with that, it's correct. This has 6 points. So the 7 has 6 points. So it's inequality. If you build in that nature with everything else, like today's mathematics is knowledge add on a cipher, then now you're fitting things to fit knowledge add on a cipher. You're not coming up with an insight of knowledge add on a cipher and applying it to a day that may have nothing to fucking do with knowledge cipher at all. At all. And then what happens is that you live your life, though, trying to fit your life into knowledge add on the cipher, as opposed to letting the day be a principle of knowledge add on the cipher that will let you spotlight maybe an instance or two. And then what happens is, you know what, the whole day happened and I didn't see knowledge add on the cipher at all. But maybe I can study and deliberately knowledge add on a cipher here. You see what I'm saying? Be very careful. We're dealing with numbers, though, which very breaches right into numerology. Today's mathematics, right now we start with 10. Right when you get into 10 in the month, we're going into the phatic system. That's numerology. This is a concept that was chosen to blend the principles to see how they go together. But we could very much tap into numerology and start saying some off the wall shit, and we'll just be like, Mercury in retrograde type people. You know what I'm saying? That's good for girls that are really hot. Tell me that does that not work? All that astrology shit that really only sounds good on girls that are really, really hot, right? That only works there. It doesn't work for anybody else, right? Well, Kamaslami, you're right. It's fine. It's 6. We'll leave it at 6. You know what I mean? That flag that many called 9 points. It has been said that people counted them as 9 because they were including those in voting points, which, as you just said, is not to be counted. Right. It can't be counted because then we would have to do it for the other star and everything, so it'll be off, right? Thank you, Joe. I want to be hard on you, but this is the place to be hard, in the classroom, nowhere else, though. And I know you understand what I'm saying. Just be careful with that, Everything, understand this. Anything that becomes tradition, meaning you do it regularly, can become ritual, which can be lost in the reasoning can be lost. The usefulness can be lost. The direction can be lost, which also means that it could be enforced just for the facade of it and not the reality of it. And that doesn't mean that the tradition is always rooted in a lie, like trick knowledge. That's the consistency of the world that we live in. But a lot of trick knowledge, a lot of the tradition that we can make, a lot of it could come from the truth too. You know what I'm saying? A lot of it could come from the truth too. Right? Whether you do anything, whether it's this knowledge itself or the martial arts and stuff like that, right? You can't just do it. You have to do it the way you're taught, but you also have to always study your own body because you're going to move different than anyone that ever lived, right? You can only move like many people, but you're different than everybody else. You know what I mean? So that's the whole thing, Yeah, it is by many people. I'm not one that faints at the notion of mathematics being mixed with alphabet. You know what I'm saying? I find that to be like more rules as opposed to the truth is if you have 120 and you've been the God for you show and prove, the reason that we have an alphabet is that it extends the dialect. You know what I'm saying? And the reason that the alphabet, each alphabet's meaning works is because it links with mathematics. So I'm not one to say that it's completely wrong, like to mix mathematics with alphabet. I would say that the mixing shouldn't be a mixing, but using alphabet and the principles of the alphabet to highlight things. You know what I'm saying? But when you build today, you're going to see justice and knowledge add on a cipher, right? You would see that, right? So, but it is related. But be careful, again, be careful with rules. Be careful with rules. Okay? Mixing mixing alphabet with mathematics becomes problematic because sometimes people will say things, but they don't know the reason or the insight that comes along with it. So they have they'll have it because it's an alphabet, it lends itself to dialect. And because of that, though, you can have phrases, like Y equals self, which is mixing, Y equals self. That only works because it's the 25th letter, right? When you have that kind of mixing, what happens is you could have like someone that says something, but they don't really know exactly why, and that was the only issue. That's where the issue comes up with, But when you talk about mixing things, what do you think? The mixing I don't like is the assumption of things. That's why I don't really do like borning names or things like that. You know what I'm saying? Or what it means and stuff like that. Because like knowledge borns this. I don't do any of that kind of stuff because that's all etymology. So if the history of that word decided that K didn't belong, we have a totally different answer. So you're at the whim of the way of the Western world. And then you're doing a thing, well, nothing in life is coincidence and shit, Thank you for, resting on the laurels of that great saying. You know what I mean? But you haven't proven it. You haven't proven it, though. You just rested on that. You know what I mean? It came to be because that's how everything is meant to be. Thank you for proving everything by just resting on it is what it is. But that's not a build. That's not a build. You know what I mean? So when you build on something, be careful that you don't just say, well, it is what it is, and it be's, Allah's the God, always has been, always will be. But you didn't prove anything. When you go, Allah's the God, always has been, always will. You just said a religious statement. You know what I mean? You didn't prove shit. You didn't say, well, how? How is that so? How is always will be? Right? Yeah, that math magic, you gotta be real careful with that. It's not as terrible as anybody else, you know what I mean? I remember when I was so embarrassed. I was embarrassed with this flag. I was walking around like this. Look, so walking around Harlem like this when Obama became president. I was like, oh, it's going to be right and exact because the culture finally has freedom and it's going to build. Obama is going to build. I was like, oh my goodness.
He's half.
Oh my goodness. He's come to give the culture the freedom. Put the freedom in the culture. I was like, oh my goodness. Are you serious?
Have you heard of the term, not to cut you off?
Nah, Bill, yeah.
Have you heard of the term ADOS?
Yeah, American descendants of slavery. Yeah. Definitely, That's another seventh degree in the 1 to 14 group, you know what I mean?
Really?
They're literally just separating, you know what I mean?
No, I'm not saying I believe it, but I just feel like, Obama's not part of that. You know what I mean? He's Kenyan. I'm black.
Right. Technically, no, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But that's not why they made that movement. Peace. That's not why they made that movement. They made that movement to separate, the African American from everyone else, though. So again, they're defining their identity by the particular oppression that they dealt with. So to me, that's a white man's group. They define themselves by, well, wait, you want to come in the group? Well, it's not about phenotype or anything because, if you're African American, this and that. Oh, is what are the things that happen to you from them? So to me, it's it's a white people support group. It's a white people did the,
That's
right?
Funny. No, I was thinking similar.
It's a white man support group. Joseph, I see that. The knowledge you do to the cipher will determine what justice you get from the cipher. Yes, but your grammar is a little awkward, though, because you said knowledge you do to the cipher. You don't. Do you do knowledge, though? Right? See, we can see knowledge, though, as that creative idea, that truthful idea, the reality of you first. So what you bring to the cipher is always rooted in knowledge. So in that case, I would reword it, say that knowledge that you bring to the cipher, just the grammar. So we'd say, I wouldn't want you to say it that way, right? Indeed, Joseph. Joseph, let me know your righteous name. Just I'm unfortunately I'll forget it though. If you don't email me and stuff like that, but it's how you do it though. But this is all language. This is all built, so it all works for me. It all works for me. It's how you do it. It's how you use it. I don't like to limit the tools. I just like to question the tools, right? Okay. right? And when we look at the degrees of today, right? What we can also look at things like we always look at knowledge add on to the cipher, right? But also knowledge add on the cipher is also the things that you take away. You know, piece of the God, infinite mind. Um, I know infinite mind knows this, being at the way we was taught and all the martial links, and when the degree says in the 1 to 36, because the devil taught him how to eat the wrong foods, then we also have to look at what foods and what to let go of, right? What are those foods to let go of, right? What are those right foods, wrong foods, all those things, not just the Coca-Cola soda, but, you know, like all of those things, like what are the things? And when we knowledge add on the cipher, we look at the most important thing, you know, like in your life, that might not be the important thing. That's not the most relevant thing. You know what I mean? So we look at those things that's most important, though, right? Shedding the belief continuously, bathing yourself with belief, right? To me, that's knowledge add on a cipher, right? Okay, I see where you're coming from, Joseph. Self Allah. Okay, that's peace, self Allah. Okay. All right, I like the little networking here. Mr. G1, peace, God. Let's see here. All right, I'm going to take a little break. Any questions that you have, let me know. And I'll come back with more information and stuff. Okay, I just drank some water.
I'm gonna take over.
That's
He said terrible things. It had nothing to do with this place.
Okay, I'm back. Hopefully there's a lot of questions and exciting commentary here. Huh. Okay. Knowledge add-on to the ciphers, what you're bringing to the table. Indeed, infinite mind. Indeed. Okay, Joseph. Self-Allah, right? I'll give you an example. Me and my bro was building an ego, EGO. EGO equals 27. 27th degree in 1 to 40. So if your ego is out of control, you're going to be manufacturing the devil. Okay. Got lucky. It's a lucky build. So it's a luck build, you know? It's a luck build, you know? It fit, you know? Got lucky. Because we're dealing with numbers, right? It could be anything. You didn't make it like that. So when I look at stuff like that, you got lucky. Got lucky. You know, it fit, it made sense, you know, ego, you know. 5, 7, right? That's an O, right? 14. Okay. I mean 15, 15th letter, right? Steady doing the knowledge and not lose time on that which does not exist, right? That's today's degree, right? Referencing. Self, this is how I try to use math. I know it's close to numerology, but I look for a correlation between. Right. Self, I get. This is what we was taught, but you have to be very careful with correlations and stuff, okay? Because correlations lead to fitting things, okay? Right? So it's Supreme Science. Has anyone considered the black swan fallacy in regards to today's degree in the 1 to 40? Supreme Scientists, explain to me the black swan fallacy. I vaguely know, don't know exactly. Okay, let me. You mean if Fard never asked the 10th degree? Not really sure. I'm not. But give me some more on that, Supreme Scientist. Like what you're asking there, you know? Because it's a good question, you know? No, perception is not always reality. Self and being a real pain in the ass today to you, right? There's a problem with that saying, though. It's a saying that God says, self. It's also, I think it's a bad saying. If it don't apply, let it fly. The problem is that we're not talking about things that don't apply, letting it go. We're talking about when we're going to make everything apply. And that's a problem. You know what I mean? Like, did you go to ego and then you go to the 27th degree and say, oh, wow, we got lucky and this shit don't work all the time, right? Well, what you did was you furthered something that was in the degrees. The degrees are about cues, right? The degrees, 120, like I mentioned, and correlated them is try to show you like the Eastern way of teaching because it is an Eastern way of teaching the 120 lessons. Absolutely is an Eastern document in many respects. And when you link it to the Dhammapada or see how they are written in many of the same ways: repetition, wonderfully written phrases, metaphor. But then there's also the ideas that are in there that you're looking for in there. that become the cues that you end up having. You know what I'm saying? And okay, yo, that horn's a little too loud. It's so light offended. Grover Washington Jr. Light offended. All right. Okay. All right. I lost my train of thought. Let's go back. All right. So what I'm worried about, though, is the nature of building, the applying, the many of the ideas in 120 are written to give you cues and to be more memorable. Okay. So what happens is that when we build with the mathematics with the 120, right, and we're linking them, we're looking for cues too that can cue to the understanding that we get out of it. Here's the problem. What happens when we are not really coming with understanding, but just fitting new cues and saying that's what it meant? It doesn't mean that it meant that. You see? So understand that, like, when you say ego leads to 27th degree manufacturing devil, none of that is technically wrong, but understand that that's not the answer to ego. That wasn't designed that way. Okay? It wasn't meant to be that way, you know? And that's the only thing. I'm not saying that you're seeing it that way, in that fashion, but when I see people do this, and I'm talking about 20 years of experience with this, when people do that, what often ends up happening is that they're saying that this was meant to be in that fashion. And so it is, as opposed to you just really were being clever with your insight and made a new cue to give worth to a degree. It's not you give worth to a degree. This degree is also about ego. You know what I mean? It doesn't mean that it was designed that way. Or like the cards are written that way because what you did was just tarot carded 120. You just tarot carded 120 to the 2 and the 7, right? The 2 and the 7, ego, add up the numbers of each letter, born them, right? Put them all together, comes out to 27. Now it links up with this 27th degree, and ego is what leads to manufactured devil. You just made a tarot card flow chart. Okay. This is dangerous though. This is what you did. You made a tarot card flow chart. It works though. And like I said, if you were a hot chick throwing tarot cards, all that shit would make sense too, because it all would be fitting something. They don't fit anything else. They don't open the card, right? And it says something horrible and they go, hey, you're going to have a lovely day because you're a lovely person. No, they're going to look at you and say, look, shit is real. And you're going to go, holy shit, shit is real. The person's there because shit is real. So you could always match, you know, you can always match things. You can always fit things. Be very careful. You know what I mean? With that, you know, understand that what you did was a mechanism of insight. It doesn't mean that you found the answer. It means that you just added a point to it. You added an insight using it, but it doesn't mean that that's what ego is. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't mean that ego was deliberately engineered that way in its etymological history to be E-G-O and to deliberately be the 5th letter, the 7th letter, and the 14th letter, and born 27 and link up with that 27th degree. Okay? No. See, you're showing and proving that ego has something to do with that degree. That's all that you could prove. But the way it links up via the numbers and stuff is all chuck, okay? That's all chuck wagon. It's all, you know, shooting, you know, backwards. You know what I mean? It's all chuck. You got to know that. You got to know that because what you'll be doing is just fitting things. You're fitting concepts to it. You know, like I said, what I'm saying is completely blasphemous to a large chunk of great legends and elders that build. Many elders build, and I love them. I could give you names. They were here. They're no longer here. Some of them are still here. And they build, and they're fitting everything to what it is. But then they think that what they fit is exactly the way it was. It was meant to be that way. Be very careful with that, because you only know what's meant to be, though, if you showed and proved each and every aspect of how it was meant to be. If not, then you're just using a general truism. Mathematics, everything is mathematical, so it's all meant to be, meaning I can link anything with anything. Then that means that you give license to any 85 to link up any old thing to it. That means that they could use mathematics, and they say, look, that building says 7, I'm going to walk in there. That's a crack house, though. No, it says 7, I'm going in. You know, and that building, though, is a school, and it says, you know, it says 666. I'm not going in there. You know what I mean? I mean, by these cues, this is the same thing that we would do. It's the same thing. So you got to be very careful that, and knowing that you've made what really is a good teaching tool, as opposed to finding the answer to ego via that route. Okay? You added an insight to it as a teaching tool, and even a mechanism to remember. Okay? Right? Because ego absolutely has to do with manufacturing the devil. You know what I'm saying? You know, in many respects, though, right? I'm glad I cleared that up, Supreme Scientist. No, self, I'm not. Yeah, and self, you know, don't, you know, the things that you're saying show a lot of thought and a lot of effort. You know, so I already know you're coming from a place of real research and real thought put into this, you know. Here's the thing, though, Calm Islami, right? Word don't turn math from a tool into a crutch. What I'm saying is this, is that for all of us, though, it straddles the line. If you're using it, it straddles the line, because we have mathematics so that way we could remember things. So we are using it as a tool, and it will be a crutch when your life sucks and you go, well, let me look at mathematics. So it's your crutch. You're using it to hold yourself. You know, you're using a truth and a tool and a mechanism to hold yourself. You know, so like, I don't want to be grandiose and say that we don't have crutches when we deal with things. We do. You know what I mean? Just be careful and be wary of how it works, and always be checking yourself. You know what I mean? Right? And how you do it. You know? Never be the one to say that, like, don't do it that way. Oh, it's always going to be, you know, that's not the truth either. Right? That's not the truth either. Okay. I would say this, right? If what you have is in general, I'm not talking about you, but rhetorically, if someone has understanding and it doesn't work for someone else, it doesn't mean that it's not right and exact at all. It just means that it's not usable by somebody else. It'll be right and exact in all those situations, right? No, everything I said that might be wrong about it is what I'm saying. I'm saying the emphasis, the focus, the vantage point of how many use it that way, and what could happen, though, you know. Because if we start looking, you know, and again, I'm going against a lot of elders that I love when I say this, though, you know. For example, Waz Jamel, remembered in perfection to God, one of the greatest teachers I ever met. he did his mathematical buildup and I could never use it because I never bear witness, though, that each of these words born something without knowing the etymology of it. Then to me, it's totally arbitrary. You know, it's totally arbitrary. If I spell something different, unless I decided the spelling myself of something, then I don't accept it's born. I don't accept its borning. You know, I don't. You know? Because now you don't know the path of that, right? And that is a little different than, let's say, breaking up a word and seeing it like no ledge and know the ledge. That's a little different. I'm not talking about that, you know? Those can always be useful, but those are all teaching tools, okay? But that's what I mean, though, okay? And again, here in the classroom, yeah, here in the classroom, the idea is to, just as you're doing perfectly, self, is to throw out things. See, knowledge, right? The K, right? In knowledge, the K is silent. K is silent, right? I'll just write some notes. The K is silent. The knowledge, the OW instead of is used. It could be right? Ledge, we could use J instead of DG, right? And the E is silent then. Who picked all that? You know what I mean? That's a lot of numbers right there. You know what I mean? That changed the whole game, right? So, you know, you have to be very careful. You know, like what statement. So when you say knowledge borns, whatever, I deliberately don't remember them. How do you know that was made so like that? Like it was made so like that. Knowledge borns, I think knowledge born God, something like that. I forget. Right? I disrespectfully forget. But yeah, you do it like that. I don't. It's real arbitrary. It's just plain shit. You know. What's the main thing that we're teaching out there? We're teaching that we're the true and living God, right? What problem do we get? Yeah, you know, what problem do we have? The main problem is we're teaching people that there's no mystery God. So let's go have a way of building with them, not with the things that are completely arbitrary, but you know, with basic facts, real facts. You know, when we learn things deeper, then we can use all these cues and things like that really well. Webster say what he say, you know. English is like, to me, English is my instrument as a writer. So before you can play those notes the way you want to, you better know how Webster played them. You know what I mean? Right? You know, it was funny, right? Today's degree, who is that mystery God, right? The fact that you search for trillions of years and then that is proof that you shouldn't keep searching could very well be like one of the most religious statements you could ever hear. I'm giving you a different angle here, right? We stop searching for that which does not exist because we searched for so long and it didn't exist, right? Then you could have the ego, right? We talk about ego, and someone could say, well, you know, they wasn't good at it. They wasn't good scientists, though, so I could find it, right? But the rule or the lesson in that degree is stop searching for that which does not exist. Don't waste time, right? The reality is that no one stops searching for that which does not exist unless they know for certain that it doesn't exist. See? If you stop searching for that which does not exist just because it took a long time, no matter how long, trillions of years, then that means that you just pretty much a quitter and you're not scientific, because now you're not scientific. You're dealing with a different type of belief, more lazier belief, right? So maybe you go to atheism, which is, right, the belief of no beliefs, because still belief, you know? So when you look at that like that, what is the information that shows and proves that we could stop searching for that which does not exist? It does not exist, right? Shouldn't the person stop searching when they know for certain that it does not exist? Or we now know that there's a time limit. They search too long for something. Now, the reason I say it's religious and unscientific, that concept, right? If I get really technical, is because science is about searching in the unknown. So if we stop searching, then we're also not asking questions about the unknown. See? So it's really that degree, the way I see it though, it only exists so if the question was better. Not the question in the degree, but the question that someone stops searching for, right? So when they stop searching for that which does not exist, though, that only can happen though if they know what exists. You see? That the journey, the scientific journey is being put in a question here. We are not searching for that which does not exist. We are searching for the depth inside of all that we know that exists. Like, for example, when they search for dark matter and dark energy, no one said one day, yo, let's go search for dark energy, like some shit that doesn't exist. Like, let's just look for dark energy. Well, man, it doesn't exist. Now let's just go look for that shit. That's not exactly how they made it. They start looking for dark energy because they computed something that they cannot define. So they basically computed, right? They computed all of this, right? This whole thing, and they computed this surface area, but they can only define this amount of water. I'm just using this example. So all the empty space also exists, but they don't know what it is.
Nice majority of the universe.
So you are still searching for something that you know exists. You just don't know what it is that exists, what its nature is. In the degree when you search for that which does not exist, you're not searching blindly for something that has no absolute cue that it ever even was, that there even was a reason for. This is the difference, in that degree. So it's a difference between searching for dark matter and dark energy than it is searching for that mystery God. There has never been a cue that exists. And the cue says that I saw it. It says the 85 and say, you don't even know, I saw it. That's at the 85, the 85. I saw it though. That's not good enough. Put that in a bottle, and put that what you saw in a petri dish, right? I get what you're saying about English, though. I love English, but and it is a manipulative language. It's completely adaptive.
Racist and sexist.
It could do anything. It could be anything, right? But the truth is that you can only build on the origins of a word and born it, for example, unless you know where it came from. Each and every part. And then trust me, then your knowledge born this is going to be a totally different story, and it's going to be a whole thesis statement in a lifelong's work. Okay, yeah, Mr. G1, all right, okay. LT, okay, you don't have to. LT. Did I see it? I could have sworn I commented on everything I saw here. Let's rewind here. LT says he threw a build on the day's math. Is it me? But I keep missing your builds. Why is that? Okay. Was that after you said the flag? Many called 9 points. No, it must have been after that, right? Or before? You let me know. Is it before that? If it's possible, you could copy and paste it again and throw it here. I'd love to see it right now, because I'm going back and I don't. Damn it, I don't see it.
Had to dip out of here. But I want to know if you heard about. I don't want to say it.
I did. I have built with him and everything. Yeah.
Have you heard?
Yeah.
You okay? I'm hearing bad things. That's all.
Yeah. He's gone through a lot though, physically and everything. But
I don't blame nobody. I don't judge nobody for nothing. You know?
Yeah, you know. Yeah.
Viper was like,
Wait, what?
Viper Records. They're all like, how dare you? Ah. You know what I mean? But I don't know the situation.
He's been calling me from where he's at, so I've been building with him and everything like that. A lot of things happen to him, so I can't get the whole story out of him. But I'll throw you a little message.
Yeah, I hit you. You know what I mean?
Because
I also was like conspiracy theory. You know, or is it real? Because but
honestly, I know
it's real. You know what I mean? But
I heard from him pretty directly, so I don't even know like the rumors of what people are saying. So I don't.
So, I don't like or chichen.
Yeah.
You know, I know chatty patty.
Yeah, LT, please throw that build again. Throw, copy and paste that right there again.
I'll be back next week. I got a friend in the hospital. I gotta
peace to God.
Do a whole bunch of.
All right, do what you gotta do, God.
Peace to God. Thank God for this air conditioner.
Indeed, thank the gods. Yeah, LT, throw your build there so I can see it. Okay. All right. All peace. But when you get a chance, LT, put your build. Could you post it again? Because I look back and I'm not finding it. But I don't see it here. So, it won't post if you have too many characters. No, okay. Yeah, no. Religious people are religious people scientists by practicing religion. No. No, that's definitely not the point I was making, though. But most scientists, though, in the Western world, they actually are religious.